Alright guys, today we're going to get started on painting this truck. I debated whether to go with the original color, which at a deal price, the base coat's like $350. And, you know, I mean, what's this truck worth? It's a 1990. Is it going to pay off right now with this economy for me to buy that, you know, more expensive base? Now, locally, that base coat would cost me about $550, but I can get it somewhere for $350, which isn't too bad. But when you add the clear and you add the other things, it's quite a bit more expensive. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this Kirker brand. This actually is pretty good paint. It just doesn't, it comes in limited colors. Actually, there's a lot more than what I'm showing you. There's all these right here, and their base coat, well, you can use they have a single stage urethane that they use as a base coat, and you can put clear on it, but you don't put the clear right on afterwards. You got to kind of let it dry and then put it on. So they have a metallic gold, this color right here. It kind of looks similar to the one that's on here, but it's a little brighter. You can see here it's a bit brighter, of course, than what's on there. And in the sun, of course, it has some metallics in it, and it comes out a little brighter. This is about $100 a gallon, a mixed gallon. So you really need like 2 gallons. So it's about $200, which saves $150. To me, that's not bad, because it will do two different things. That will be a single stage urethane as a base coat, which will fill in scratches better than regular base coat. If you use regular base coat, you should sand with a finer paper, especially with a golden brown like this. It's going to show the sanding scratches pretty good if you use like 220. With the paint we're using, we should be able to get away with using 220. I've never used this brand for base coat, so we will find out together how it works. A lot of guys do use it. It works pretty good from reviews and stuff like that. And like I said, the biggest difference between this paint and others is you can't just order like a color already made up, you know, or like a factory color. They don't have color sheets. They just have this sheet of colors. So there's a lot of them. So if you wanted to paint your old Volkswagen with these colors, you're not going to get the original color that you want, you know, like a lot of guys want. I want the original color. That you have to order, or you have to have matched. So you can't do that with this paint. But it's a nice cheap alternative that works good and lasts over a long time. And by the way, we're going to use a better quality clear than what they have. I don't know if their clear is that good or not, but we're using a High Solids 54% clear coat over it. So you'll want to see that. So first things first, we're just going to get rid of these pinstripes. They have to be removed. So I'm using one of these flat knives from Harbor Freight. These actually work really good for this sort of thing. I'm not worried about damaging the paint that much. Try and not do too much damage, and remove these pinstripes. And then I'll have to get the glue off of there too. So any decals have to be removed, obviously. So removing decals, and we're also removing the badges here. Putty knife. Taking those off, they're all faded out, looking bad. The moldings are coming off. But to remove sticker glue, I do one of two things. On this one, this stuff seems to do the job pretty well, so that's all I'm using. But if you have the good old sticker glue like this stuff right here, where this doesn't come off at all, so you can scrape it. All right, so to remove the moldings, I use just a putty knife, or a 5-in-1 usually works a little bit better, and I'll just work my way down like so. Alright, you guys, this is where this product, this orange air freshener really shines, okay? This glue is, you are not getting that off, alright? You could try mineral spirits and it ain't doing anything. So you just spray it with a little bit of this and let it soak. Not too long because it dries kind of quick, especially if you're in the sun. Now, don't push straight on the razor blade. I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of sign industry stuff, removing sticker glue. Okay, I've done way more than anybody that is on this internet. Okay, and they don't use this stuff. They use Goo Gone or something, and that stuff does not do anything compared to this. So you just go at an angle. Don't push straight on the razor blade. I mean, you can. It doesn't work as good. When you get the really bad stuff like over here, you want to go up at an angle and saw it off like in little sections like this. Okay? This stuff just dissolves that glue. I mean, you gotta use a few coats of it. And I'll take out the first section by doing this. And then after I've done this much of it, now I'll go to putting another coat of this on there, and then I'll finish it out with sprayway. So I'll go to here, I'll put another coat of this stuff on. You'll watch the glue just start to dissolve. A lot of different, it depends on the glue though. Some of them are more water based, some are more solvent based, and some of them work better with just sprayway by themselves. So I'll do that, and that takes most of it off. And you can do this with even without damaging the paint with a plastic putty knife. And after I'm done with that, then I'll do this. And then this just kind of eats it up a little bit more. I don't know what sprayway does to glue, but some of them, it just dissolves it by itself, and I'll just use just sprayway. Depends on the glue. I go like that. All that work, guys spent hours trying to remove this stuff. There you go. Minutes. Comes right down to just clean paint. I can feel a little bit on there, so I'm going to do a little bit more to it. I'll hit it with a little bit more sprayway probably. I can barely see a little bit on there, and I'll just really try and get all of it off. If I don't get it off, when I go to sand it, it's going to gum up my sandpaper, make a mess. So it's better that I just pay the price now, get as much off as possible, and then that makes those little balls. Okay, you get those little sticker balls, and when you sand it, they're everywhere. And then you go to paint it, you'll find every single one of those little sticker balls somewhere. They can be anywhere in the car at some point if you don't get all the glue off. So, yep, that's what I do. I've done thousands. I mean, and this stuff is non-toxic. So if you use it in like a bank or something like that, that's why I used it. I used to use mineral spirits, and they don't make it in California anymore either. They make something called mineral spirits, but it's not mineral spirits. It's acetone. All right, so I got to do this whole side of the truck, both sides like that, and then we'll continue. All right, let's take a look here. What we ended up with, a couple coats of this stuff. And I drop coated this a little. I just added some slow reducer and drop coated the end to get it a little more even. And it just lays down real easy. Not hard. It kind of, you know, not like your old acrylic enamels and stuff like that. This urethane, it just evens out real nice. Pretty good. I mean, I could get it perfect, but I just used a minigun, so that was... So I got to get it dry to touch. It's got to get just a little drier than this. And then we'll put the clear on. We'll take a look at it. Got a little bug right there, but it's right at the bottom. You'll never see it once it's on. Anyway, that's how you do the single stage urethane thing, and to put the clear on it. So it has to get dry to touch. I mean, it's just sticky right now. It's got to get dry to touch a little more than that. So we'll show you, and then we'll go ahead and put the clear on, take a look. All right, dry to touch. Not dry to fingerprint, and I can feel just a little bit of stickiness to it. That's perfect. Let's go ahead and clear it. Let's take a look here. Looking pretty good, drying out good. Almost got no dirt in it too. Just sprayed it right there. You guys saw where I painted it, because the base, again, is open time isn't very long. It's almost like regular base coat, but just a little bit longer than that. Pretty clean. No orange peel, of course, you know, not much. So anyway, good enough. If I can get the whole thing look like that, I'll be happy. That'll be plenty shiny enough. So yeah, don't even buff it. I'll just send it. Okay, make that truck look like that. We'll move on. Right, so now we're gonna go ahead and get started sanding. I'll just go over what you got to do, what I'm doing. Again, if you want to do it your way, you can. I'm using 220 grit sandpaper. That's what I'm using on this thing. I could probably get away with sanding this with 180, and it would probably come out virtually the same. You may get a little bit of sanding scratch in the finish. You would not probably, most people would not notice that. But I could probably do that with this Kirker paint that we're using with 180. So typically, if you're going to use base coat, you should finish sand with, they say 600. All right, 600, which, let me tell you, doing with 400 or 600 on this much vehicle is going to take 10 times as long. So that's why I'm using the Kirker paint. One of the reasons, because it's easier, it's pretty cheap to buy, and to use regular base coat, I would have to add, but I could use 220. I've done it before. I prepped my rabbit pickup with 220 silver. Okay, prepped it all with 220, sanded it. But if I used 220, then I have to add binder to the base coat. So what I'll do is I'll buy base coat binder and add like 50% binder, or I'll use this stuff here, which is basically very similar to just binder. You can buy this. This is actually really good for using. I'll use this about 50-50 with the paint, and then I'll add reducer to that. And the first coat will come out kind of modelly looking, but all that's going to do is fill in the scratches. So, or you could just paint it real quick, one coat with this first before you paint the color on, and that'll help fill in those scratches and get a decent looking finish. So it's a couple $100 more for the base coat. Then you add the additional cost of buying that product and adding to it. It ends up costing you $400 or $500 more to do that. That's why I'm using the Kirker, one of the reasons. But it's also, again, it saves that whole process. So if you're doing your own car and you want to use that exact same color paint, then you're going to have to use something like that if you're going to do 220 prep. All right, or you can just go to 400 and And you'll, after you do that once, you'll probably go, oh, I think I'll do the 220 next time. So anyway, let's get started. So when you sand, like this, not like this, not even like this, it's got to be flat. What I do is I'll go flat, and what I'll do is I'll put a little bit, tiny bit of, so it's still flat on there, right? But I put a little tiny bit of pressure. It's not, I put a little bit of pressure on one side of it. And what that does is that helps keep it even. If you just go completely flat, the sander will kind of walk around a little bit, and that'll make, make the finish not look very good. Maybe I'll do a little demo of that. So you can see, you have to sand, when it's like this, see all this stuff, that's got to be feathered. Like right here, I can feel something, and what it is that's got to be sanded out and feathered to where it's like this. Okay. On the sides, all I have to do is just scuff it. I'll show you that. So if you look at this, okay, that's just, I ran over that with a sander, and you can see right here, there's where I've cut through the clear. Wherever you cut through the clear, if you're going with base coat, that might show up. So it'd be best to seal this whole vehicle. If you got cut throughs like that, not good. They will sometimes map around those if you're using base coat. So with this product, with the single stage urethane, typically it won't. So I'll just paint it. I won't care if I've got cut throughs like that. But I'm probably going to seal this anyway, because there's just so much. I'll probably have places where there's bare metal after I've primed it. So all this right here, wherever you feather sand, wherever there's feathering like this, all has to get primer. You have to put primer on it and then sand the primer, or this will all show up. Okay. Yeah, you use single stage urethane, you might get away with it, with this, like a Kirker brand paint, might work. Okay, might still not look too bad, but typically the normal way to prep this would be go and primer over this and then sand the primer, always. So same with this, wherever it's peeling, you got to feather sand it and get rid of that whole feel of it. Wherever there was stripes here, where the glue is here, has to be primered over that. So wherever there was pinstripes, you have to primer over that area. This here has to be primered over. This is going to have to get feather sanded and primed. So all that has to get primered. But you don't need to primer necessarily the whole vehicle. So you don't have to primer everything. You just have to primer anywhere there's, like right here, that should be primer over that little cut through. Okay, where I went through the, so literally this truck probably would have to get either a coat of sealer over the whole thing or primer if I was using base coat. All right, that's the way I would normally do it to ensure that this didn't come out. Now you could just shoot your base on there and then look at it, and if you see this stuff like kind of looking weird, then what you do is just stop and sand the base coat with like 800, and then go back and start spraying it again until all that stuff's gone, and then you put your clear. So you can do that too. There's a lot of different ways to do this. There's not just one way. So anyway, let's prep out a couple fenders and we'll take a look. All right, that actually took 5 minutes of real time. It doesn't take that long to do that fender with this sander. If you used an air DA, it'd probably take you 10 or 15 just to do one fender. The same way, feather sand everything down good. So everywhere it's feather sanded, all that has to get primer and then blocked once. Just run over it with a hand block, foam block after that. But since this hood is in such bad condition, it didn't look that bad. Like if you look over here, it doesn't look that bad. Okay, but as soon as I sand this top coat, whatever's underneath, is bubbled, and so there's stuff underneath that's like here. If you kind of see here, there's these parts here like that. Well, that takes a lot of time to sand with the 220, and I'm going to have to primer this whole hood anyway. So since I know I'm going to have to primer the whole hood, I can switch to a heavier grit sandpaper. Now, you don't want to go too heavy. The heaviest you can go is 150. And most guys will use only 180. So I'm going to switch to 150. I'm going to do the whole hood with that to save some time, because I'm going to have to primer the whole thing. There's no way around it. So those are things you're looking at when you're observing, when you're sanding. If you want to save some time, you might even go, hey, you know what? I got to sand this whole thing right here. I'm going to sand all that with 150 for sure. I'm going to have to primer that. So I got to sand it like this. So you just run over, do it with 150, and then finish out everything else with 220. All right. And then if you're using super fine grit, you're going to use base coat. Maybe you're going to try and finish it on 400. Okay. Then you're going to use that binder and that technique there. Then you might go over the 220 with 400 just to save some time. So you've already done this all, let's say, with 220, and go over the whole thing with 220 with 400. See this scratch right here? That has to be completely feathered out of there. Gone. You can't just putty over that. That's got to be feather sanded all the way out. Gone. All this right here has to be completely feathered out. So I could do that and just skip ahead with 150 and just do this area, since I know I'm going to have to primer all this, and just do it with 150. So those are shortcut techniques you can use to, you know, shorten the time frame a little. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, guys, let's look at some prep that is no good and some prep that is ready. So if you can see right here, let's get close so you can kind of see it. You see that little spot right there? So what's happening is underneath the base coat, this primer is bubbling. Okay, so you got to, on this thing, I've got to sand. See that little spot? That's no good. So that's got to get feathered out. Okay. This right here is no good. That is not done. Okay, that's not feathered out enough. All right, that's not feathered. That gotta keep going until it's like this. If you look right here, this is done. You can run your hand over it, and you don't feel any sharp edges. There's a little bit right there that needs to get sanded a little bit more. So this right here, that's all done. Maybe along that edge, I'll look at that, take a look at that. So this is ready for primer. This here, that is not. So you have to prep it like that. That's no good right there. So I've got to sand that out. So this is not feathered enough, okay? So a lot of guys will be using an air DA on this, and they'll go, oh, man, that's a lot of, well, then just go and buy one of these. You are going to save yourself a lot of grief and time with one of these electric DAs. They sand better and faster. And sorry, all you guys that don't know it, maybe you've been painting for 30 years. Try one of them and then tell me I'm wrong. So, you know, if I didn't have that sander, I'd probably go to 80 grit. Okay, and then I'd have to put more primer on here. So by the time I put more product on here, and then by the time I spent the extra money for the 80 grit sandpaper and the extra money for the extra paint or product I would put on here, sometimes you could do 80 and then you can go to 150 and feather that out. That's okay too. But in the amount of money I would spend doing that, I could just buy one of these sanders and then save myself from doing 2 or 3 steps to do what I can do with once. So having one of those big electric DAs, I'm telling you, you use one once, you will just be like, oh my God, I've been wasting my money and time for years. So again, I'm doing this with 150. I might have saw me jump from up there and come down here because my sandpaper was getting, I was losing my cut. So on this, I can push on the sandpaper a little bit more. So I went ahead and did that. I went ahead and did this with that worn sandpaper. So that way I'm not wasting sandpaper and just keep on changing it when I can use that same cut somewhere else. So that's what I'm doing when I'm doing that. And so I'm just going to finish this hood. I'll probably get that section done with a brand new sheet that I just switched to. And then I'll do a little bit of 150 somewhere else, you know. And then what I'll do is I'll do the rest, everything else with 220. And I'll go over all the areas I've done with 150 with 220. And then I'll be ready for primer. In fact, I don't know if I'll do all the hood with 220. I don't really need to. I'm just going to primer it anyways. So if it's going to get primered, 150 is fine. So anyway. And like I said, I know guys who prep with 180. And they go right over it with single stage urethane. And it works. It looks good. And it hardly has any noticeable scratches in it. If you want to do the quick method and you're using single stage urethane, you can get away with it with a solid color, even with metallics. Kind of. You better kind of know what you're doing if you're going to try that one. If you're using metallics, you're going to probably put clear on. And when you put the clear on, if it doesn't fill in all those scratches, you know, they're going to show up as soon as you put the clear on. You're going to see ugliness in your base coat, and it magnifies it with the clear. Let's take a look at what we've got so far. So off camera, I went ahead and did the other side, but this is all done with 150. Then I go over with 220, everything. And I did all this whole truck, all this feather sanding and everything and sanded the entire thing. I mean, this is sanded really good. I just got to do the hand sand. All these areas here have to be sanded. Even for primer, you still got to sand it. You can't just prime over. I've seen guys do that so many times. All these corners, I got to sand those by hand before I primer it. I've already done the hood. I sanded all this by hand in here in the corners with 220. Gotta sand this, gotta sand the edges here. I'm gonna pull this molding out because it's getting replaced. Then just sand all the edges wherever I'm gonna prime. Then I'll go ahead and prime all this. But you gotta sand in here. And see, that there has little, I don't know if you can see it. Let's look at an area where you can. You can see here, see this little stuff right here? It's all got to get sanded out. Can't just leave it there. It's all got to come out of there. You can see it. All right. So the whole truck's been sanded. The roof, everything in about 3 hours with that big sander. That thing, and people go, oh, well, it's too squirrely. No, you know what? The DAQ, if you ever used a DAQ air sander, that's a squirrely sander. This one's not. It's not squirrely. It's really even. You can sand it better and faster. It's just heavy. So I sit on the chair and do it. And it's not hard. It's not that bad. You can put your your arms on your knees and sand, and it's not that bad. But it's way faster than air sander. Way, way, way faster. 2 to 3 times at least. Maybe, yeah, about 3 or 4 times maybe as fast. So I could not, it would take me all day to sand this truck, right, to really do a good job sanding it. But with that thing, you know, to sand it like this, I mean, that's sanded really good. So yeah, all I got to do now is do the little bit of hand sanding in the corners, start putting some primer over all the bare, anywhere it's feathered has to get primer over it, and then sanded once over that. You can guide coat it. The hood, I'm going to do like 2 or 3 coats of primer. Put one on, let it dry, as I do it one more time, 3 times usually, and then I'll sand that. And then wherever there's cut throughs, if I have a few cut throughs, I either got to spot primer those, or I can just seal it with a DTM sealer right before I paint it. So I may do that. It all depends on if it has to sit outside in the weather. You can't do that. You can't have it outside in the weather the night before you paint it and have bare metal. It's going to be rusty. You're going to have issues if you do that. So you can't do that. So if it can be inside, then you can leave those bare metal areas and just seal it once, go right over it with paint, you know, let that sealer flash dry. It has to be dry when you go over it, and then you go with paint after that, and you're good to go. So anyway, we got a dent here to fix. We'll get on that. Got a dent there to fix. I'm looking for my dead blow. I've been looking for a couple days because that's what I want to use. I could use a regular hammer on it, but they're noisy. It's loud. The dead blow is a lot quieter. And you know, one thing people can't stand is pounding and grinding. They just don't like those two things. You're going to have enemies. Oh, did I miss this? Oh, there's a dent right there too. Didn't see it. No, I see it. So yeah, I was like, I missed the sanding this area right here. And then I missed, there's a whole dent right there. So I'll get that fixed out. So anyway, those are the dents. There's like a couple on the top of the bed. Just gotta look at here, feel this out. A little lumpy spot right there, and a dip right there, and a little dippy guy right here, and same thing, a lumpy spot right here, low spot right there. So I'll take care of those, and this dent right here. So that's it. When you sand it, you're looking for those dents too, but I've already looked it over pretty well before I even sanded it, and I don't see anything. So that's why I wanted to paint it, because it's a nice straight truck and it just looks like hell. So if it's painted, it won't look like hell, and then makes it more desirable to me with a low miles truck like this. So I mean, yeah, I should have painted original color. Maybe some guys are going to say, oh God, you should have gone original. And I don't think it's going to make any difference with this brown that was on. It's not like a nice looking color. If it was a nice looking color, then it would have been, you know, it would have been, I would have went and got the original color and just did it. But it's not really. So anyway, let's use the gold and see how it looks. All right, let's take a look here. We've got a dent here, and let's see if we can get this out. It might take more than just a dead blow. I got a new one because my dead blow was looking pretty shady anyways. So I just went and got a new one. Let me see if I can beat it out. See how it works. This is a porta power. You put this up in there and you jack this right here, jack this jack handle, tighten and loosen this, right, like a jack, and it pushes that out, and then we'll push the dent out. Well, if I had a bullseye hammer, I could probably metal finish it, but I don't really want to, so let's just call that good. Slap the old Akin pucky on there, and go on to the next one. At least it's out and good enough. And down this low on the body line, you're not going to see it anyway, but yeah, it's a lot of tools just to do one dent. It just getting in this area is a little tough. It looks easy, but then you get back there, you don't really know until you really do it. Now the other side even looks easier. Anybody think it's going to be? Looking pretty easy until I saw the exhaust right there. And then this this little post makes it really kind of hard to get to. It seems to come out all but this little area right here, little feisty area. The rest of it seemed to pop out of there pretty easy. And you just don't know until you really work on one. You think, oh, that won't be hard. You turn on it. I can see it straightening out. You guys can. There's one little right near the corner. But this part right here, of course, this is messed up. And when you straighten that out, it kind of brings this in. And then I just got to get something in right there. And I think I can do that with a picking hammer pretty easily. Just right here. And then we'll be 90% ready for filler. I'd say almost 100% if I knock this out. Okay, not too bad. This chisel end. Got her one-handed with the cell phone in one hand, right? Yeah. It's a little bit of a low right there. Let me see if I can get that. I can see it. The old hand-eye coordination still pretty good. All right. That's what it takes to do this stuff. All right. Right, a lot of guys will mask up everything to primer. But if you mask it for primer, you need to take all that masking back off and put fresh masking on for painting, because there's a lot of reasons why you do that. You'll end up with a primer edge around the, your paint if you do it that way, or you'll end up with primer flakes getting in your paint while you're painting. Always put fresh masking on. So when I'm primering, what I'll use is I use cardboard shields. We would just used to get old cardboard boxes of fenders and doors and stuff that got delivered to the shop and save them, and then we just use them, little pieces even, just shove them in all the corners and cracks, and then primer everything, and then just take them all out, because that stops the paint from going down into the jams and making them look bad. It just saves you a lot of hassle. So we did it this way, for many years. So anyway, that's how I do it. A little trick. If you're looking for a primer gun, I think these are really the best. I had a Iwata Air Gunza, and these come with a 1.7, 1.3. It's a great primer gun. Thought I'd just show you that real quick before I put my back on my respirator. All right, let's take a look at what we've got so far. I had to prime this and it was getting dark. I mean, really dark. So primed over all the areas. Anything like the pinstriping areas had to be primed over. So when you block those, you kind of smooth out that feathering and stuff. The whole hood had to be primed because it was all feathered out, right? This was all feathered here, so you have to prime over that. The whole bottom primed out. Primed to block that once, and then this has got just primer on it once. It needs another coat. I can see it. Needs another coat here and another coat here. I'm just using spray can. So you guys, when I say spray can, I don't mean to get a hardware store spray can and use that. You have to use a regular automotive spray can. This is like Dominion or Medallion, one of those, or Transtar 2-in-1. You know, there's a bunch of different ones, but they got to be regular automotive primer. It can't be hardware store or Rust-Oleum. Even if it says automotive primer Rust-Oleum, no, that will just fisheye. You'll have nightmare problems with that stuff. Only use stuff you get from the paint store. Don't use any, you know, from the automotive paint store. So I'm going to hop up. So I got the bumper off of here. It was really difficult to do. A lot of bolts to take off. What a pain, but that's fine. So I got to go, when I paint it though, I'll have to put a step ladder here and I'll climb up in the bed and I'll do the roof. And then maybe at some point I'll just spray inside the bed. I'm not sure when. You know, I used to do pickup trucks. I remember getting in the side, just spraying all the pickup bed and then just walking my way out and then painting it and just leaving it, not even putting clear on it. I don't know if I'll do that. Maybe that's what I'll do. Just put color on it and leave it there. We'll just see how it looks. I have to go over it twice. So maybe I'll do the sides once, and then, you know, go all the way around the sides once, and then go by on the sides a second time, and then do the bottom maybe once, something like that, just so it looks good. But I use this to get up and do the roof, so I can do the center section of the roof pretty easy that way. Or you can use ladders or planks on either side, you know, because you really can't reach up on that roof very easily on these trucks. So anyway, all right, my Harbor Freight sander finally died, and it's a 6,500 RPM 5/16 throw, and this one here is only a 4,500. So yeah, it's not quite as powerful as the other one, but it works pretty good still. Way better than air-powered sander. And I was talking to a friend of mine who was also a car painter, and I said, man, you know, some of the biggest things I've done is some of these primers and stuff I get from Refinish Depot website, really good, and some of the products I've gotten from them are really good. But the other thing is this electric DAs. He goes, oh, I've always used electric DA. I stopped using air a long time ago. They work so much better. So there's somebody else who does really nice work, who he always uses electric. He says it's just faster, it does better job, it's just way better. So these 6-inch sanders, even this one here, I just got this one because it's cheap for now. And then I'm going to try and get a brushless one from Weaver. I'm waiting to get them to get back with me. So, and that one goes to 10,000 RPMs, but doesn't mean you run it at 10,000. And you just turn it down. So, and the brushes should have a little more power. So this one here's fine though. I'm sanding everything. I'm going to finish sand everything with 220 because this thing's a little slower sander. I don't want to use 400 because it'll just take forever to sand this. The reason I use 400 on the other stuff is because the sander is very aggressive and this one's not quite as aggressive. So the 220 still sands really fast. I'm going to run through, sand this all down with 220, and I'm going to show you what the results are with 220 with this product. Now, if you're going to use base coat, you will get sanding scratches unless you're, what I do is I'll add binder, and then that really fills in a lot. You'd be surprised how much adding the binder to the first couple coats. Put a couple coats on 50-50 binder, 50-50 paint with base coat, and paint it couple coats with that. That's what I used to do years ago in the old base coats. And everybody goes, yeah, you got to use, 400, 600 with these new ones. I'm like, how come I got away with it all the time? All the time. Using 220 and 320. I used to use 320 with metallics and 220. But sometimes I would just use 220 because didn't want to. I do 320 by hand, 220 with the DA. Let me just put it that way. So, yeah, that's what I do before. But sometimes I just use 220. And I barely got anything. Nothing. Hardly any sanding scratches at all. It looked really nice. Because the paints I used to use had a lot more binder in them. So I figured out that if I add binder to the newer paints, then it does the same thing as the old ones. But if you put an extra coat on there, man, it's like putting sealer on. And then the sealer does fill in scratches too. And like I say, well, you still need to use 600 or you get sanding scratches. I'm like, man, what sealer are you using? Because the stuff I'm using fills it in really good. So anyway, all depends. Everything depends on what you're doing, what you're using, what products you're using. You find the stuff that works the best and you just use that, and then go with the heavier grit, because sanding with finer grit takes a lot more time. And it's just up to you. If you want to do all that, fine. If you don't want to ever change and just do everything exactly the same all the time, then do what they do and do all the extra work. I'm trying to show you guys stuff that I do that's faster and it works really good. Like a friend of mine, the same friend of mine, told me about the DAs. He goes, man, I didn't know you could sand with 180 and it comes out almost no scratches. I'm like, dude, yeah, with single stage urethane, we did that all the time. And yeah, you might see some scratch in it, but it depends on what you're doing. If it's a quick blow and go, yeah, it looks good. You don't even notice it. But if it's like a really nice job, yeah, you don't want to use 180. 220, you can get away with it. 320 would be a little bit safer. The guys that really safe, you go to 400, 600. But, there's a lot of ways to skin the cat, guys. There's just tons of ways to do this stuff. Nothing's totally wrong. It's just all on how you do it. Well, I just got a hand sand and mask, so I think I got most of it ready. It doesn't take that long to do that, because all you're doing is just running over it with your sandpaper. Make sure you didn't get any dry spots in it. Just make sure you didn't miss anything with this big sander, and then do all the edges and stuff. These edges where I didn't sand in the corners, and get that really good. So I just kind of wash it down with a piece of sandpaper, and then feel it while I'm doing it, and then just do the corners and edges, and then it's ready as far as the sanding goes. The seal coat should seal this whole thing. Couple options you could do. You could just they have another spray can primer, not this stuff. You got to sand this one, but they have spray cans of sealer. I think I've got some. So I could go around right before I paint it without sanding it. I believe this one here can be used as a sealer. There's another one that can be used as a sealer. You just give it a little dry coat like this. I'll just show you this little spot. And it goes on super fine, so it doesn't leave overspray around it really. And if you wanted to, you could just use a scratchy pad after that, like a Scotch-Brite. After doing all these cut throughs, you know, just give them a little, okay, after you're done sanding the final sand, and just run it over with Scotch-Brite and get all that ready that way. Or you can go over the whole thing with sealer. Haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, because it's, the way I look at it like this is, I've got, sealer is just another coat on something this big for me at my age. This might be a lot to spray in one day. So back when I was younger, this was like nothing. You do a truck like this, no problem. You know, sealer, paint, and clear. So, and you got to wait between coats. It's going to be a long day of spraying on this thing. So if I can alleviate the sealer, maybe use that stuff. And then, like I said, I'll probably just go over it with a Scotch-Brite. You almost don't feel anything. There's no overspray feel on it. So it's really fine. That stuff works good. You could just go over that and not even sand it and paint it. And it shouldn't map. You shouldn't see the edges of this, especially when you're using single stage urethane. Sometimes, if it's too dry around the edge, you'll see it with base coat. Just so you know. This is kind of a teaching video. So basically, I'm going to tell you guys, there's 3 different prep methods, or 4. There's the blow and go prep method, which is do the whole thing with 180. That is the cheapest way for the cheapest job. You're not worried about the results that much. You're going to get still a pretty nice looking job. My buddy Freddie says, man, I was surprised. I had to do at work. They said, man, use 180. It came out good too. I said, it came out good too. He goes, oh yeah, I couldn't believe how good it came out with 180. I go, yeah, we used to do quick method prep using 180. I remember doing a Pinto with 180, and it was a, you know, $150 job. It didn't, you know, pay to put that time into it. So we had to just blow it out, 180 it, paint it with acrylic enamel, single stage, and yeah, you could see a bit of scratches in it, but it looked pretty good. I mean, it looked way better than Earl Scheib. So they have that method. Then you can go to the 220, which was the standard method for us, okay? And then after that, then you'd had the 220, and then you had the 320. So guys would go to, 320 was a little nicer. You didn't get as much sanding scratch. But I found if you use sealer, you really don't get much in sanding scratches at all, even with 220. You know, not much. I mean, it's just almost nothing. So depending on if you're using base coat or if you're using single stage urethane. So single stage urethane, pretty much nothing. Nothing. In fact, I get nothing with it, with both, because I use that binder method. Okay. And then there's the finished sand with 400. This is how we did it back in the old days. Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, those got finished sand with 400. Today, guys are saying, oh, you got to go to 600. And it's what the difference is the materials today have more colorant, less binder, and the colorants are stronger, so you get coverage in like 2 coats. Back years ago, you had to put on 4 to get the same coverage you get with 2. So that's why, you know, you're not putting enough material on to fill in the scratches. Same thing with the water base. The water base, you got to go super, super fine, because it's super, super, super thin. It shrinks down to nothing, and you'll see it in the base coat. And with water base, you cannot have any of this stuff. With single stage urethane, I've done it in a quick hurry and had cut throughs, bare metal, and never even saw the car again. It looked perfect, and did my own junk with it, you know, that I didn't care about, and it lasted and worked great. So you can do that. So anyway, there's a lot of different ways to do it. It's not just YouTube one way. This is the best way, you know, the only way. It's like it all can be done, and it all can work as long as you're thinking and you're knowing what will show up and what won't. And that's what takes experience. There's no other way other than that, you know, or just go do the 600 prep. But I'm going to tell you, sometimes doing 600 prep will be worse, because you'll leave waves in it. finishing everything out with 600 because you're not sanding it enough, and you really got to have a lot of cut in your paper to really get the car smooth and straight before you finally do that last 600. The 600 is at the end, and what guys I know do is they do it all with 600 wet because it's easier to see what's going on. When you're using dry, it loads up a little bit on the sandpaper, primer does, all kinds of stuff. So it's a whole can of worms to me going to 600. I just won't do it. There's no reason for me. I mean, I got this car here. I did 220 prep on this. Can't see any scratch in there, can you? There's a few places, tops of the fenders, and it's because I didn't get enough material. I didn't use the sealer method. I didn't use sealer on this either. So I didn't use sealer, and I did it with 220, and then I didn't use the binder in it because I had lots of paint. So I was like, I'll just put a couple extra coats on. The binder really makes a difference. It really makes it, but there's not much. I mean, you can see it in the sun, a couple little shiners where it's usually you can just see lines in it. You can't see any of the swirlies, none of that. So anyway, in my rabbit pickup truck, I did that whole thing, 220, and I did it with the binder, and it's silver, L91 silver, bright silver, negative, no scratches at all, perfect. Can't see it. So it can be done. It can be done. The guys are just gonna say, "Oh, it can't be done." It can. I did it. I've done it so many times. You just got to really watch what you're doing. All right. You can't just use no brain and just like automatically make it happen. You got to watch everything. Make sure put those coats on. Look at it. See if those scratches are coming back. If you can see them in the base, you'll see it in the clear. So anyway, and then sometimes that base will shrink down. But if you got that binder in that first coat and you didn't over reduce it, it will actually cover. So anyway, let's talk later. All right, so my setup kind of sucks. My prep is crap. But I mean, look in the edges here and these little things. But you know what? Sometimes you just gotta say, F it, right? That's what this channel is about, right? Effing garage. Today is the F it. Let's paint it and see how it turns out. I gotta sand that. Oh, what that is, a fingerprint? Better fix that. This is supposed to be an epically nice paint job. That's why we chose the most expensive materials we could find, which were $100 paint on eBay, right? So, are we expecting perfection? No. But this will probably turn out better than you might think. So, stay tuned, and we'll get her painted, and it'll certainly look a whole lot better than it did, right? You guys saw in the beginning. All right, so this is I went with a 1K sealer. I've used this before, and it just worked really good. Now, 2K dries a little faster. Well, that's not good. And that's not good. I'll fix that. But, I like the way this is nice and slow drying, but there's a little bit of dryness on here right now, so I'll just tack rag it again really good. Let this dry in here. Now, the 2K might like me getting back up in here again, where the 1K may give me problems, but again, real important to get this one real perfect. So yeah, I'll make sure that, you know, it gets that way. So anyway, you get a little bit of dusty stuff on there, but it covers really good and it fills in the scratches. So that's what I like about it. And it was really cheap. And it's not a lacquer. It's a 1K acrylic, and I think it's a urethane single, you know, like a single part urethane. And it goes a long ways, and it was really cheap. But they don't sell it anymore, so I'm not going to mention what it is. I thought it worked pretty good for a 1K. So yeah, it's just quick and easy. And if you have any left over, you can use it on the next one, right? That's what I like about 1K stuff. All right, so the first coat went on kind of dry and grainy. It's already dry, you know, to touch. Not dry enough to clear because you can see the wet spots in the hood. But, you know, that's without reducing it at all. It says not to reduce it unless it says up to 5%. So I'm going to shoot the bed like this, guys. I shoot the whole bed like this. And at the very end, then I do this, cross spray it a couple times, and hopefully I get a coverage out of it. And I don't think I'm going to put any clear on anything inside the bed. And I'm not going to drop coat that or anything. However it lands, it lands. So there's a couple dry spots and stuff. I'm not pushing it because I don't want to. You get a run in this stuff and then you got to stop trying to fix that. It's just no good. It's rather to have it a little bit dry than a little too wet on this single stage urethane. It's like riding a bike though, you don't forget. It's all the same. You got to go a little drier. You can't go real wet. It's kind of like shooting base coat. But the next coat, usually what I'll do is I'll first start out with a thicker coat, the first one. Then I'll go thinner and thinner and thinner. But again, this product says don't thin it too much, more than 5%. So I think that's because it'll mess with the UVs. It won't last if you just use it as a single stage and then just walk away. But we're going to put clear on it, so that's what's going to be the protector. The clear is going to be the protector for this base coat. This as a base coat, so it's going on good. I think it covers pretty good. You don't think it will when you pour it in the bucket, but it actually covers pretty good. I think it's a flake. Weird. I don't know. We'll shoot another coat on here and see how it looks. I'm just going to probably put 2, and then if I was do 2 and a drop maybe or something. Anyway, so looks like it should cover. I don't see much for scratches even on the first coat. It's a little something right here, but I think it's going to bury in, no problem. I don't think you'll see any sand scratches in this, even with the 220 sanding. Probably could have gone 180, darn. All right, we're gonna just drop coat this. It doesn't look too bad. I mean, there's a little peel in it. Because again, I never sprayed this before, but I think 5% reducer would be probably the way to go next time, but it's fine. I don't have any runs. That's all I'm worried about. I don't want runs, and I want even, just like I'm shooting it like base coat. I don't care if it looks like perfectly smooth I'll do that with the clear, but you know, you need it to be pretty smooth. The smoother your base coat is, the smoother your clear is. And there's a little hanger right there, but it just stopped. It got right here. I guess I overlapped there again, but I can get that out right now. It's already, every time I'm done, it's dry. Like, I mean, that's almost ready for clear right there. But I'm using slow reducer, so I gotta wait maybe another 5-10 minutes to make sure that solvents all come out of it. So anyway, that's 2 coats. I mean, I shot inside the bed. I'll show you that real quick. I just shot it, double coated it, just went over it dry once, then went over the same area again, and then kind of, you can get a little more on that way, and that's good enough. That's, I'd say, the inside of the bed. I mean, who knows? I don't know what they're going to use it for. Show truck, they can clear it themselves, whatever. It's not going to be that, not going to be that nice. Quick, I'm outside here. I'm going to go in there with you, and then it's going to kind of show you what I do when I drop coat these single stage urethane. I got really slow reducer. I reduced the paint about I don't know, almost 50-50, a little bit less than that. And you can see there's a little bit of orange peel still in it, but it's usually, I could have got it smoother. I've done it before and gotten it absolutely just perfectly smooth when I was younger. You know, like I said, I don't really care about this because it's going to get clear. As long as it's smooth enough to get the clear on it, that's all that matters. So let's go in and check it out. Yeah, I just keep going until I slowly build it up until the metallics are even, but you got to put enough on so that it melts in and it looks smooth. So it's just a little bit of a, I don't know, you feather it. A lot of guys will just drop coat, just stand back like this and let spray. But yeah, you can do that. I mean, I like to just feather it in, bring it up slow, let the metallics even out, stay far away, pretty far away like that. If I go too far away, you just blow lots of overspray everywhere. I don't like to do that. So anyway, I say we're got a few model in it, just a little bit, but you know, in this color with those giant metallics, I don't know, with a single stage, if it was base coat I could get it even better, but it'll have a little bit. See how it's kind of dry looking? It'll, if you got a slow enough reducer, it'll kind of melt its way back in. But it's kind of, the hardener's a little too fast. Maybe I would recommend using slow. I think I got medium. So, ooh, this wind is not good. Oh, we'll get our clear mixed up. By the time we get that ready, I think we'll be ready to shoot the clear. Yep, I think so. All right, well, a couple things happened. I didn't film doing this clear. I was having a bit of trouble. Of course, once you start having a little bit of trouble, that just happens sometimes, and you know, it happens a lot. And sometimes it just snowballs. So this one kind of did. But you know, it's just like I said. I'm not looking for. I don't care if it's like super flawless. Okay, I'm not looking for that. But you know, there's just certain things you can live with, some things you can't. You know, if this was a customer's car or something like that, of course we wouldn't even have done this. I would have told them just a gazillion dollars and sorry, you know, you get what you get, or one of the two, or both. But yeah, there's what happens sometimes with some colors, and especially when you're using single stage urethane. You guys saw I painted this quarter right here last. I was showing you guys how to get the metallics lay down, and I did get it look good before I put the clear. But guess what I didn't do? I didn't wait quite long enough. You guys, it's all about that game. Just a little bit longer, so this quarter color smeared. And so this doesn't look bad right here. All the way to here looks all right. And then when I got a little heavy, where I overlapped right here, there's no run or anything, but you can see where the color started to just hang a little bit. But right here, I got lost. Forgot where it was overlapping at, and I got a little sag going on, and then that just took the color right behind it. You can see the color. It's kind of all over it. Okay, but some parts are better than others. So I got a little heavy here, a little bit right there. I might just leave that. That's like I said, I'm not, you know, the quarter panel, then there's this one right here. So what happened is the first coat of clear, when I put the clear on, see, I used this clear before, same exact can of clear and everything, and I painted it straight out of the can, but going over the single stage urethane, it wanted to be a little thinner. It was acting like you're going over, maybe it was because I went too early. Okay, and it was starting to kind of wet into it. So it smeared right here. So, you know, I think there was one spot right here, like right there. See where I came? I overlap right here. Wherever I overlapped, it got a little bit heavier than the rest of it, and the color started to smear. I'll look at it in the light. Hey, the bed looks good, just single stage. So if you just did single stage, it would probably look fine. It's a little flat looking, of course, because all the overspray landed on here. All the clear overspray, and I didn't put any clear on that. But anyway, that's painting, guys. Painting, you have a lot of problems, and that's one of the reasons I didn't stay with doing it, because it's one of those things that it's just very aggravating. I mean, you have days where there's just nothing. Everything goes right. You go, God, what? But you're dealing with chemicals, timing, you know. When you don't do it very often, it's just stuff like this can get you. And it did, you know. And look, I've been working on this thing. You know, I'm tired. That's the part of the problem, is you get fatigue. You know, I'm started at 8 o'clock and it's 1:30. That's a long time spraying. You know, I was spraying in there, putting coats on, climbing in out of the back, doing the roof off a ladder. You know, it's a long time, a lot of coats, and a lot of processes, tack ragging, blowing it off, all that stuff. I mean, geez, there's hardly any dirt in it, which that's good, but the color smear is the worst. It's like one of the worst things. So, you know, I'm probably just going to do like mask off a little area, spray it, spray a little color, get rid of the color smear, sand it, you know, of course, sand it down a little bit, get rid of the color smear, spray it and blend it, blend the clear. People, oh my God, that won't last. Let me tell you something. It does. And this is the thing, is the old school way. Okay, guys who are old school think, oh yeah, it won't last because the old way you did it, it didn't. Okay, the old product, what you did is you spray your color, whatever, you spray the clear, and you start to blend out. Okay, and you would add blending reducer to your product that you were blending. If you were using single stage urethane and you're trying to blend out, you'd add blender to the paint. Okay, now you don't do that. You just dry spray out a little bit, and then you use this product here, one of these products, these clear blenders, and they melt the stuff into the other stuff, like the old lacquer. Now, if you know, the old lacquer would last. You could blend the old lacquer and it would last for years. You blend enamel, when you use that reducer in it, no, didn't. But this method, using this stuff here, will work pretty good. So this quarter, probably I'll just do like this section back. You know, I think I could clear the whole thing, but then what if I just get a run over here or something happens, you know, and I've got that to deal with, right? The least the better for me. And probably just do a little bit right there. I might just do a clear touch up. There is a little bit of color smell right here. I think I can live with that. There's a little bit on the hood right along the front. That's no big deal. This one, probably I'll do a little bit same thing, you know. I don't know, maybe I'll just mask off and just do this one little area. Spray and blend right here, just spot it. And blend it. I got to get some more of this stuff. I'm almost out. But you just dry spray out a little bit and then just spray that on there and you'll watch it just melt right into the other stuff. It really works, especially when it's fresh clear. Maybe that one I'll do, because that one doesn't look that bad. It doesn't look that good. And I got like this quarter, kind of got a little tiny bit of it all over it because I was doing these two back quarters with the drop coat last, right? So I got one right there. I think there's one up in here. This whole area kind of has that. So, or right over here. It's wherever I overlap. So I did this section, right? Did just a little section here. Then I went to the back corner and did that section. So wherever I overlap, you can see that. And it's not the whole area. It's like this one. There's only a little spot right here. So it's a pain. You know, it's like, heck, just paint the whole thing. No. Yeah, right. Not today. Not with the price of paint now. But I've got enough material to fix it easily. I mean, I got tons of it. So I only used about a gallon and the whole one mixed gallon and a quart, maybe. I don't even know if I used the whole quart out of the other gallon. So yeah, it didn't use that much material. I was surprised. This stuff went a long ways. Shot the whole inside of the bed. That is one coat. I mean, I double coated it. Dry sprayed it once, went over it again, maybe 2 or 3 times, just until it looked even. There you go. You could not do that ever with the old paints back years ago. No way. I could never do this in one shot and make it look that good. So anyway, yeah, it's just some flaws to fix. Oh, it's always fun. There's some lovely parts about painting stuff. All right. All right, so another problem here. You stand back and you can see this. So yeah, it just basically goes up almost vertical. And if you guys go, whoa, you should have got down on your hands and knees. You can't get on your hands and knees in the spray booth. If you go do that, you're going to get dirt on your clothes. You're going to get dirt all over the car. So you got to do this either before or after. So I'm just going to do it now. And I missed right here. So I'm just going to spray color up to about right here. And you see, all I did was just scratchy pad this. That's it. Good enough. And if it was base coat, you couldn't really do that. The scratchy pad scratches might show up. Even down that low, you're not going to notice it. But just get the color on it. I'm going to shoot some color, blend it up, shoot the clear over that, blend the clear, and then use the clear blending spray can. I'll show you a little bit later. So yeah, you know, these spray guns don't want to spray up, you guys. That's the problem. When you go down and you try spraying up, you're not going to get coverage down there. The only way to do it is to stop, go underneath it, spray upward. And it takes a while to do. So I just did the bottom. I haven't put the clear on yet. I gotta let it dry completely. Then I'll put the clear on. And I'll let this all dry out for a few more days. And I'll figure out what I'm going to do with that. You know, I don't know. I just did it too early. That's all it is. I've done tons and tons and tons of base of single stage urethane as a base coat, and I just went way too early. I thought about it. I went, you know what? It just smeared. But not all of them smear. I don't know. I've had some of them wrinkle or fry up, like guys call it, whatever. We used to call it wrinkling. That's all we ever said. Then the internet says fry up, so you better say fry up now. So anyway, so I got this all coated. Maybe one more on this side. I'm just letting it set up right now. I really don't want to film doing it because it's tedious. You got to go under there. Your gun won't spray that direction. You have to kind of spray at an angle and kind of feather it, play with it, and then go this direction once after you're done and get it to cover. And then, you know, the whole idea is to get it to where you stand back. You know, who's going to get on their hands and knees, right? An asshole, right? So we don't paint for those people. But the average person stands back, right? And if they can see brown underneath, then that doesn't look good. So if you can stand back really far, but we couldn't do that in the spray booth, and I certainly couldn't touch this up in there. I couldn't even see that it wasn't covering. But I knew from experience that it was probably not going to cover under there. And I don't know how bad it was going to look until I get it out. And then I get it out and I go, oh, got to fix that. So either you play golf, you know, by being really good and always making every shot, or you get good at coming out of the rough, and that's what this is. This is really rough. So anyway, but we're not going to get it all. It's just not going to be a very good game, right? Some games are good, some games aren't, and people need to understand that when you're doing work. You don't always get a home run. And if you want a home run, you pay lots of money. And then that's what you get. Because you pay to do it 2 or 3 times. That's usually what happens when you do really nice work. And guys do it, or they just get lucky every once in a while and get one, but they are planning on doing it twice. Well, that certainly looks a lot better. Look at this. Can't see the blend, nothing. Let's look at the other side. And got it underneath pretty good. It literally, you're painting up when you're under there. So there's a run right here that I've got to fix right there. So that's not from what I just did. And that's above the blend. I blended about right here. So I kind of figured that out. I was like, well, I got to cut that run. Even if I did, it wouldn't matter. You can't see it. I've cut and buffed over the blend areas. And it doesn't, I'm not going to cut and buff anything down here. Nothing. Never do below that line. So, all right. That takes care of these problems. The first ones. The other ones are like, let's see, over here. This doesn't look very good. So I got that one to do. I think it kind of goes up into there. I don't know. Maybe I won't fix all that. I'll wash it off once it's... I gotta let this dry. Got a little sag right along here. And then, see, this is... It just re-wet this whole thing. It re-wetted. So I've got to sand this whole area. And then what I'll do is I'll just spray and blend right here. Probably do the same thing. And then cut and buff it all. I got to put a couple coats of clear over that. Now there's model along here, and this isn't, that's not from not spraying the metallics even. That got it re-wetted. It re-wetted it. It wasn't that bad. This fender here, the whole fender looks pretty bad. So I'll probably just do, I think up to this corner, like I can back mask that really nice right here. And then I don't have to get into this whole thing. That's got to be done. So I'll just go up to here, and then I'll just kind of mask that, mask around here. See, I want to get the windows back in it because I can't in the door handles. So I'm not going to repaint the whole thing. No way. Because I've got too many others. So if I just touch that up, touch this up, this looks okay. All the way back here. See, that looks a little bit model right in there. I can live with that. It's just this looks bad right here, and right there where I got a little bit heavy. There's a little run in that, you know. So I'll get rid of that, and yeah, then it'll look good enough. It's not looking. We're not trying to get it to really super nice. If I was going to do this thing really nice, it'd be like, oh, just sand it down and repaint the whole thing. But you know, we're not going there. And then there's this spot right here, this one. I don't know if you can see that. So, I might be able to just spray and blend just this one area. So it'll be like little spots I'll do on it, which, you know, takes a lot less time than painting the whole thing in actuality, believe it or not. You know, because you could paint the whole thing and have another issue from the whole thing, and be right where you are right now and do the whole thing. You know, think, oh yeah, it cures it every time. No, it doesn't. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. You know, you might have a bad day that day. You don't know. So you just fix it sometimes or repaint the whole thing. But you know, the thing is who pays you for those days? Oh, well, that's your screw up. You got to, well, you still have to pay bills. You still have to eat. You still have to, so you either charge a customer enough to cover that, but you have to charge like for doing it twice, and then people don't want to pay that. You're like, oh, that's too much. Okay, well, things happen. You gotta, you know, the bills keep going while this process is going on. So yeah, it's just what part of the job. All right, I'll tell you what I did off camera. Got a little bit of, if you can see it, I don't know, maybe you guys can see it better in the camera. Sometimes you can. It looks a little bit discolored in the middle because I sprayed that whole section. Yeah, I just blended the clear out. So I sanded to about right here. And then I put the base over the part where I sanded, and then have a little bit left past that. And I kind of blend it out, okay? And then, because even though it's the same color, you got to blend it still. And then I clear over that, then go just past that. And then I use the spray can blender. So if I got it right here, use this one, and what it does is that melts it in. And guys go, man, it'll peel. I've got cars 10 years in the sun, didn't peel. So okay, I've done it lots of times and it doesn't peel for me. And if you're doing something, what guys do is they add the blender to the clear. That will jack it up. It will not last. You add that blender, that color blender to clear, done. Will have a problem. If you use a spray can stuff, it melts it in. So you can't even see really where the clear stopped, and then I can still color sand and buff this whole area. So yeah, believe it or not, you can actually color sand and buff it. So that's what I'm doing on touch up, but I'm noticing it's a little bit different. Now this side over here didn't turn out nearly as well. I put more coats on it and see how you can really see the blend. And you can see that I blended it right here. If you can really look, if I can get you at the right angle, like right here, you can see it's lighter and thinner, the color, but I was trying to still cover that area. But like from this angle, yeah, it's hard to even see it, but you can see this end. But what happened is, so what I'm realizing is when it wet this down, it like pulled the yellow, because this color is kind of a weird color. So it, you know, every color is different. I've done blends and stuff with hundreds of different colors and with single stage urethane bases. I mean, I couldn't even tell you all the stuff I've done over the years. But this yellow that's in there kind of surfaces. You can see it's more, I don't know, more yellow there. And then there's more metallic some areas. And what it is when it color smeared, it brought up the yellow. I don't know. I was just a bad idea. I should have waited longer. I'll tell you, one mistake and you're paying for it. You do stuff over and over, you know. But anyway, it doesn't really matter because I'm not going to repaint the whole thing. But you can see this is a little bit different in color right here. Same paint, but you can see more of the yellow because the yellow kind of surfaced more. And then so if I just go over it, I think a little bit lighter, and then it doesn't look as bad. So now I know what to do on this one. So I can sand this down and just go over it really light. But I'm making sure it doesn't cover very good, so it's real tricky to do. So you got to go over it just enough to cover the yucky, but not enough to change the color. I mean, so it's like this. That's kind of what I did here. So anyway, I've been doing it off camera because it's kind of tricky. It's not easy, you know. So anyway, what a pain. But anyway, this doesn't look too bad. This is acceptable on this side. Still debating on this side. I'm just probably going to send it with this. I don't care, you know. But that wouldn't pass in real life anywhere. I mean, if I did the whole side, you could probably get away with it. But then you'd see a difference in color over there. So I have to try and blend it way out over there to the quarter, to the door. And there is a pretty good sized gap there. That's a good breaking point, but I don't know. I still think you'd see it. This color is funky. It's really hard to work with. It's a not easy one to touch up. So some of them are real easy, some are hard. You know, that's all I can show you. All right, guys, let's take a look here. I'm going to call it right here. So, unfortunately, I didn't film this portion because I really wanted to be on full concentration, because this is kind of a funky, hard-ass color to blend. Even though it's exactly the same can, if you notice here, you can see the blend over here a little bit. On the other side, it's definitely much worse. That's going to stay there. That lives right there. We're okay with that. Because I'm not trying to get it perfect. But this side here, from this angle, it looks fine. In the sun, you can see it. And so I had to kind of figure out how to do this section, which I sprayed this area right here. And then I painted this whole panel up to this line right here. I painted from here all the way up to this body line right here. You can't even feel a transition there, nothing. As I masked it, back masked it. And I sprayed this whole section of the fender with base and clear. Okay, and you cannot see the blend in here, and I blended somewhere right in here. Then I took my clear and blended it about right here. Okay, so I was blended about right here. And you really can't see it. Again, I'm going to probably color sand and buff, But and you can color sand and buff that. Even people go, oh well, no, it'll halo. It doesn't. I've done a lot of it. It doesn't halo. As long as you don't thin the clear. That's the thing people do wrong, is they thin that clear coat. They add blender to the clear. Oh God, that's gonna fail. Yeah, it might blend out and look okay, but it's gonna. You use that spray can stuff. You just dry spray out a little bit past your area. Spray can blend it. It melts in. Looks really good. So the trick is to put it on like a medium wet coat and shoot it even. I don't know how to explain that, because if I do it too dry, it comes out lighter. If I do it too wet, it comes out, you know, blotchy. So you had to just get it out the gun. And look at this here, really good. I got it, but this was a minigun. Then I got the clear. I mean, that's off the gun, pretty good. Just a little tiny bit of orange peel in it. Just real fine stuff. I could sand it out in a few minutes. I got rid of that run that was in the middle of the door. Sand that all out. And I blended, there was some blotchy stuff over here. So you can see a little bit of different color here. See, when I sprayed this, I didn't quite do it. And look, you see there's a blotchy there. We're gonna leave it. And it's gonna live there too. I'm not gonna get everything. I just wanted to get it to where the big stuff, it doesn't just walk up to it and go, oh my God, there's just patches and everywhere, you know. I just want it to look good enough where somebody walks up, oh, it's painted. Okay, great. Looks nice. Get in it, drive it. Maybe a work truck, who knows. But you just don't want it to look like crap. There's a difference, just a slight difference. So yeah, I can't see the blend here. The color blend turned out pretty darn good. I mean, believe it, that is really hard to do. I had to just like dust, just heavy enough, but light on the end, and then turn the gun sideways so that you don't, and go do your blend this direction. Yeah, that's kind of how you had it. And then angle the gun towards the area so that it didn't blow too much overspray. Because if you got too much overspray, it would lighten up on the edges. Really a pain. So anyway, but I got it. It just, you know, didn't expect that. Anyway, I've never had a color this difficult to do, but I don't think so. Not in a long time. But yeah, anyway. Like I said, this is patchy, looks a little bit, but you know, you don't walk up and just, doesn't just jump out at you. Neither does that. See how this is a different color looking right here? Yeah. And then see how I shot this. I shot this whole door all the way to here, but I did it medium wet so it would match the fender. I wasn't worried about that little transition area. Doesn't look that bad. So anyway, crazy. Anyway, it was tough, but it's a lot easier than if I tried to repaint this whole thing, I'd probably have the same problem. But it's fine. It looks good enough, and I'll just color sand and buff what's here. I don't know, a little bit of color sanding. Not going to go crazy on it at all, but just to get it, it's just a little dull. It died back because the first coat was drying into the undercoat. It wasn't laying on top of it the way that clear would normally do. It was trying to soak into the undercoat, and when it did that, it orange peeled. It also died back. So anyway, if you understand that, then you understand more than me. All right, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.